Kristin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Happy birthday, first of all.
Thank you.
I think it's super special that you took time out of your day to come hang out with me, so thank you.
Yeah, like I felt when you asked me, I was like, this just feels serendipitous for me to come here on this day. So it was a definite yes for me.
I was thrilled about that. So before we get into everything that we're going to talk about, because I think this is going to be a pretty special conversation that I get to have with someone I care about very much, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and the work that you do today and how that really happened?
Sure. Well, how far back do you want to go, Michelle?
You were born.
My birthday was 36 years ago, but we won't start there. So my name is Kristin Mundy. I am a birth, postpartum, now bereavement doula, and also a childbirth educator. My path to doulahood, I guess, is probably different than most people because I became a doula when I had no babies of my own, which is like, I think a little bit unique, right? But I grew up, so I have 4 brothers. I always grew up kind of in that doula role already. So doula means like mother helper. And I've been a mother helper essentially my whole life. So then when I became a doula, I just officially got that title. Before that, I was working in the education system, and I also was nannying. And when I found out what a doula was, it was like just instantaneous, like, okay, that's what I've been searching for. And that night I went home and enrolled and like never looked back. I was like, I'm going 100% pursuing this new career opportunity, new job opportunity. So that's how I kind of got here. And then my job as a doula has obviously pivoted tremendously since I first started. So I've been a doula now for about 7 years, I guess. So I have some like, stake in the ground now. But it has definitely evolved. So at first it was, birth and postpartum. And then obviously with my story that we'll talk about more, I added in bereavement and childbirth education. So that's kind of where I am today.
I think doulas are amazing. My biggest regret in my first labor experience was not having a doula there and just learning how alone a woman can feel. So I think you have one of the most important jobs because, I have also a wonderful husband. I'm married to a wonderful man, but sucks that experience. That wasn't his zone of genius. And so I now advocate and tell every woman that if it is in their wheelhouse, that is an absolute must investment. I think it's one of the most important things that you could be prioritizing over a lot of things that we could choose to invest in. Like instead of the crib, get the doula, 100%.
I mean, it is really funny, and I definitely agree with you. Well, first off, doulas aren't just for the birthing individual, they're for our partners too. Yes. Partners benefit greatly from doula support. I always say like my role is to make you look good. Like for you to be like the best partner you can be. Because I'm not coming in to like take over. I'm coming in to like make you guys be like this little love bubble. But it's so funny when it comes to hiring a doula for our birth. Like first off, in a perfect world, everyone would have a doula. Everybody would. It would just be something maybe like the government provides, whatever it might be. So it's like pretty sad that it isn't obtainable by everyone. But it's funny too, if you think about weddings, like that's one day in your life, right? A wedding. And we spend tens of thousands of dollars on our wedding. We spend tons of time planning and preparing. And then when it comes to birth, it's like a doula, what? That's like expensive. And I'm like, well, your birth can affect literally your whole life.
100%.
Yeah. So it's an investment, but it is a worth it investment for sure.
Yeah, it is really having that real life conversation about how you want to spend your resources because you're right. We have some things very backwards. And to your point, like I bit my husband in my first labor. I hated him. I was so mad at him.
Very
felt
normal.
like he was really insensitive to my needs. And then my second labor, I had a house filled with women, and I had a doula that was there for every contraction, surge, however you want to say it. And I remember him saying like, I can't believe you don't hate me. And I was like, I can't believe I don't. Like we just like, she did make him, like
just
useful and wonderful. And Yeah.
Well, a lot of my clients too are second-time clients because they learn.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, birth is very different than what Hollywood told me, and like, this is very different, and I need a different kind of preparation. So a lot of the time I get those second-time parents that are like, I want a different experience.
I'm not surprised at all. Okay, so your personal story really feeds into how you support women and families and couples now. And that's really a great part of the conversation I want to have with you today, because being that I'm someone who loves community and thinks that there's so much value to it, I know that that's something you're doing now, which we'll get to eventually, but that is how you're supporting families. So can you tell me, about loss and everything that you've been through thus far?
Sure. So let's talk about how my role has pivoted, how the catalyst of my pivot in doulahood. So 3 years ago, actually, 1 week ago, my story actually goes even further back than that. So first off, I am a lost mother myself. I had my first miscarriage 11 years ago. I wasn't with my current husband right now, and I just remembered that experience being so incredibly lonely, not talked about, and it really affected me. Like, it actually changed the woman who I was, like, drastically. But it was also very differently, like, handled because I was single, and like, it wasn't planned. It was like very weird, and that really changed me. It really affected me. And then flash forward, 8 years, I guess. I'm trying to do math in my head. And I was married to my new husband, who is beautiful, and we wanted to start our family. And we got married, we started trying, and our first pregnancy was super simple. I was like, wow, this was a lot easier than I thought. And I always had that fear in the back of my mind that, like, what if something happened again? Because, like, I went through that before. I don't know if I could go through it again. And, like, lo and behold, it very much transpired the way my first miscarriage was. And we did miscarry that baby. And I remember this time, like, I actually had I had a husband. It should be really different. This was planned. This was a very, like, wanted pregnancy. But I still felt incredibly alone in my grief. And it was like this secret that I couldn't share. I couldn't share my pain. And I remember for me, that was like really difficult. Like, obviously, like any other pain in our lives, we're allowed to share. So after that miscarriage, we decided to try again, and we got pregnant again pretty easily, which I felt super fortunate about, because I know some people's road to, even getting pregnant is long. And we conceived our beautiful Vienna. That's her name. And this is really what changed everything for me. And I'm sorry if I get emotional. I had a beautiful pregnancy. There was obviously, like, things that, came up, just like in every pregnancy they do. Oh, there's this. I always say, like, if you look, you're going to find. And every time I had, some sort of testing or, ultrasound or whatever, there'd be like something, but it was all very minimal. It was a pretty smooth pregnancy. But I always had that fear in the back of my mind, like, because I had 2 miscarriages before. So for me, that getting into the second trimester and then getting to the third trimester, it was just like a miracle. I was like, wow, my body's doing this. Like, I'm going to have a baby. And I remember it was really hard to let my guard down. And then I finally did. I was like, this baby, I'm a mom. Like, this is incredible. And when I was around 29 weeks pregnant, I started getting some, like, weird symptoms. And, I was working with midwives. I also had an MFM, which is a maternal health medicine obstetrician. Is like a specialized obstetrician for higher risk pregnancies, because I have a history with lupus as well. But everything was good. It was just kind of for, like, extra measures, whatever. And I started developing these symptoms. And, I remember the day of my baby shower was when I first initially started having symptoms, and reaching out to my midwife, and, them just being like, everything sounds great. You've been very anxious this pregnancy. I think this is just your anxiety, just kind of brushing off my concerns. And as the week progressed, I had more concerns. And same thing, this is just anxiety, yada, yada, yada. And then eventually saying, like, why don't you try taking Tylenol? Whatever. And I was like, okay, this is bizarre. And then I woke up one morning and I knew like something was wrong. Called my midwife, said, I feel like something's really wrong. Again, she told me to take Tylenol. She told me not to waste my Saturday by going in to get care. And I remember hanging up the phone with her and just like something inside me was screaming, you need to just go in. And I went in, and that's when I found out that we lost my daughter. And for me, I think the part that was so difficult, besides losing my baby, was that I spent an entire week being told it's in your head, everything's okay, and being brushed off. And I had a beautifully healthy, perfect baby that didn't need to die. And I feel now, looking back, I know I was gaslit about my intuitions and my motherly instinct, right? After that, we delivered my beautiful baby, and we named her Vienna, and she was like just this extreme catalyst in my life. The moment I had, that being told to me that she was gone, I saw the world in a completely different perspective. The medical care I was given too, even that was like, oh my God, this happens to people. I obviously was extremely upset getting the news, and I was told to be quiet. I was scaring other mothers, and I'll never forget that. Like, just knowing now what I know, and just knowing that mothers go through that. Luckily, very luckily, because I was a doula, I knew how to advocate for myself in birth and getting support and doing all that. But it was in that moment where my doula career overnight shifted. And I knew that there was a hole in care. And I knew that before. Like, we all know that women's health and women birthing and pregnancy, that we can improve drastically, crazily drastically. But then there's this other side of it, and it's women that are experiencing devastation and loss, and like that is like not even thought about. So it has another element to it. And I remember just like, here I was, and I had lost my baby. I hadn't even delivered my baby yet, so I waited days in between to deliver her. And I was already on Instagram being like, what the heck? And supporting people and being like, this is insane. Like, I can't believe like this is a thing. And I joined loss groups, and I was like, this is a huge thing. Like, people lose their babies. Like, why do we not talk about this? All these mothers suffering in silence. I just was like blown away, absolutely blown away. And that's when my life changed. After we lost Vienna, we got pregnant again. So this leads me to another part of my story. And we waited some time to, heal, and we decided to try again. And I got pregnant with my son, with William. And we discovered very early on that, I should jump back actually a bit. So after we lost Vienna, I'll go back to William, but after we lost Vienna, we did find out that I had an undiagnosed clotting disorder. So this was something that I was actually tested for 3 times before I even decided to get pregnant, and it always came back negative. No one for even a second said that this is something that and you might know more than me, but this is something that like waxes and wanes and like can change in pregnancy. So it changed in my pregnancy, which is why it went undiagnosed. So knowing that I had that clotting disorder means I should have had a very different pregnancy. I should have been on blood thinning medication. I should have been getting a lot of monitoring, but everyone just kind of was like, didn't think about it, I guess. I don't know. It'll be a question that, you know, I have until the dawn of time. But when I tried to get pregnant with William, I was very different. I was on blood thinning medication. We got pregnant and we discovered really early on that there was something going on with him. This was like another part of the story, but I remember going in the one day to getting a scan and the doctor coming in and being like, everything looks wonderful. Everything's healthy. Go home. And no, me being who I am, I like went on to, you know, to access my records and read over the report. I went online and it was a totally different diagnosis. And I was like, what in the world? So my son had something called ectopia cordis. And what that is essentially is his heart was growing outside of his chest. And there's like no genetic reasoning for this. It literally is a fluke. And I remember my doctor sitting me down, who was wonderful. I will say my MFM was amazing. She sat me down and just said, listen, you guys have been hit by lightning. And I hate to be the person to tell you this, but you've been hit by lightning again. This is like a 1 in a million chance that this happens. And I hate being the person to tell you this. And, you know, usually in those circumstances, people will have a termination, but from everything we went through, I just didn't have it in me to do that. So my husband and I decided, like, listen, we know he's not going to survive, but like, let's let him choose his path. And we decided to carry on the pregnancy as long as he decided to be with us. And he stayed up till his anatomy scan. And that's when we found out that we lost him. And it was very much the same thing. We went through the same exact scenario as Vienna, where it's like, planning if you're going to, you know, horrible decisions that no person should ever have to choose, but deciding if you're going to cremate or bury, deciding if you're going to have a funeral, deciding when you're going to deliver and how, and, you know, just these horrible circumstances. But my husband and I were like so traumatized already that we just were like, it is like a blur, because I think we were just in this traumatic response where we just did everything the same. But this time we knew and we could advocate for ourselves really well. And I think both of our situations were as like empowered as they could be, despite the circumstances, because of my background as a doula. But I could just not let go of the thought of like how many people don't have the experience of working in the medical field, in the birthing world, know how to advocate themselves, have financial means to like do some of these things, and are just like repeatedly traumatized throughout an already traumatizing situation. And yeah, like ever since pretty much I lost Vienna, that's been my mission, is that these women, like when they go through something horrible, losing their children, that they aren't doing it alone, that they have the resources to make this horrible situation less horrible. And then obviously I had my Earth daughter, Senna. So we can talk about that if you want. Yeah. So after William, we took a good chunk of time this time, because I was like, it's a lot on your body. Like I had 3 pregnancies I was like pregnant for like 2 years straight. So I took a break from that. And, you know, when we got pregnant with Senna, I pretty much was like, this is it. This is working or I'm done. Like I quit, because I can't keep doing this to myself. My body can't keep going through this. Like it's just too much. So we threw everything into that pregnancy, and like every hope, every dream. And we got pregnant, and it was honestly, besides losing my babies, it was the hardest part of my life. This is when I got exposed to another new world. I was like, wow, I'm really being like pivoted into all these areas where like I'm realizing these people exist and they go through this. Like it's incredible. But being pregnant with her, with the history that we had, every single day I woke up in flight or fight every single day. It was like, what is going to happen today? Is today the day I'm going to lose my baby? Is today the day that my world comes crashing down? And not only that, but like the world was very scary because like it's terrifying. Like people like, and we can talk about this, like I could talk about this forever, but like it's not just the world, but it's people, like, because people don't understand your experience. So, and like not only that, but most people seemingly get pregnant and have babies with such ease. They get pregnant, they like register, have a baby shower, make a nursery, baby comes, and it's just like pretty smooth sailing. And it's just not that experience for a mom that is pregnant after loss. And I found this like huge, like I found myself incredibly lonely, and like I have the skills to find resources, but none of them existed. So I would go to a prenatal yoga class and like everyone would be having that like blissful, beautiful experience. And I'm like, I do not relate to these moms at all. And like, not only that, but like, I want them to have a blissful experience. Like those are my clients that I work with. Like, please have that blissful experience. I don't want to be the person that comes in and says like, hey, this is what can happen.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be the sad story. So I just knew right away. I'm like, okay, that's a scary place. Like that is dangerous for me. And it was the same thing with like, I wasn't gonna have a baby shower because I was like, look what happened the last time I had a baby shower. Like, look at the things people say. It was just very scary. So I found pregnancy after loss really isolating because like, it's not just like, it's not just putting yourself out there and being vulnerable. It's also, you're hanging on by a thread. So you can't really like, the stakes are so high. There's no room for someone to say something and like throw you into a spiral for a week. Like you are literally like needing to show up. You are needing to be like this resiliency, level of resiliency, like that just doesn't really exist. So like the stakes are too high to take any chances, I guess. So that's kind of what led me to where I am now. But obviously I had my beautiful daughter, and I'm telling you right now, the moment I had her, it all disappeared. It was like instant relief. It was instant relief. And I knew that when I had her, I was like, if this baby survives, if I have this baby, things are going to change, because I don't want any mom to go through her pregnancy like this. Like, it shouldn't be a lonely experience. It shouldn't be isolating. Like, moms who are pregnant after loss, they deserve to have the same experience we all do. They deserve to be in a place that's like safe and supported, and they can be seen, and they deserve that. And not only that, but like, they also deserve to dream. Their dreams are so different than other women, but like, it's okay if you want to still have a beautiful birth. So like, I found that there was two worlds when I was pregnant. It was like, either I'm in the like really positive birth world that like I was not there anymore. Like, I was like, I believe in it. Not there. That's a little too scary for me. And then there's the lost world where I was like, that's super negative, and like also very scary, because like I don't want to be continually reminded about how much this sucks. I wanted to find like some middle ground, and it just didn't exist. So I knew if this baby was going to survive and we were going to do this, I'm going to make that exist. So that's kind of what brought me here. A very long-winded answer.
No, thank you for that. I think we need context, because
of course,
I think the work that you do is so incredibly important. And the reason I know so much of your story is because you were in the Wild Collective, and for part of that story anyways. And, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is this, when we're around people who have been through such profound loss, like I found myself not knowing what to say to you, what to do. And then coming from a lineage of where we don't talk about uncomfortable things, it's like, well, do we bring up their names, or is that going to be painful for you? And I think the thing that has been so beautiful to watch online and see you share. Like when I asked you, I didn't have to look up Vienna and William's names. I know them, and I forget a lot of names. But I think that's what I've been learning from you is keeping them a presence and finding the signs that, you know, that they're with you. I want to ask you, as someone who's been through that, like, how do we support people who are going through loss? Is there a right thing or a wrong thing that we can do?
That's a great question. But like one of the things I've learned is that like every single person is so different. Like there are some people that are like, they're not there. I think I think some of it comes down to like where that person is at and where they're at in their level of healing. And this is not just with the pregnancy loss, it's just in their entire life. So like for me, I have like this like inner child wounding, and one of them was like that my interpretation or experience of the world and my reality is denied. And I knew that like William and Vienna are my reality. They're my everything. They're my babies. And for you to like deny that they existed is like for you to deny that I exist, because like they're a part of me and that's a huge part of my life. Like I can't not go on. So that for me was the biggest one. But I feel like if you're wondering how to support someone in your life, the first thing you can do is just ask them, right? Yes. It's so simple.
Yes.
And I found it really interesting because people didn't ask me. Like they just, so many people, I think, project how they would want to be, you know, supported, or just assume. When I always say like clarity is kindness, and like, and this can go both ways. Like you can ask the person who is hurting, like, how can I show up for you? Like, and really genuinely ask them. Don't send them a text and be like, what can I do for you? Because that's like, that's putting the burden on to the grievers again, because now I have to tell you what like, it's tough. But have like a genuine conversation. Be like, I love you. I want to be here for you. Tell me what you need. Like, and they will. Another way clarity is kindness, though. And another way is like, and this does go in the griever, and it sucks, but it's just like the reality. And like, even though it sucks, it might help you if you just do this. So like, you know, short, like that initial pain for like
long term.
Yeah. Is being clear with the people in your life too. Because I don't think there's anyone in our lives that intentionally don't want to support us or intentionally hurt us. Sure, there are those like off people here or there. But the people that love you in your life, they genuinely, most of the time, do want to love you the way you need it or support you in the way you need it. So sometimes just being really clear with them about what you need can go a really long way. So one big thing too is like, and even this people feel differently, but for me, it was really important to like not deny, like I said, that this happened, that my babies existed, and saying their names. That was really important. That's a huge way that you could probably, people are like, I don't want to upset you.
100% that's what you think, right? Like,
and you're like, upset me or remind you. Do you think I forgot? Like,
yeah, right.
We don't forget, you know, those are our babies. Like, did you forget your kid today? Probably not. As a mother, your mind is thinking about your babies all the time. Like, even when you're sleeping and like not even like they're part of you. So that is a huge way that you can just like, just mention their baby's name, your baby's names, or remember important dates. So like your life might be like smooth sailing, but their birthday might be coming up. And that mom, I can tell you right now, is going through hell leading up to that birthday. So acknowledging that the birthday's coming, acknowledging the day that it's here. And it doesn't have to be like, happy birthday. It's like, I'm thinking about you and your baby today. And like, here's a coffee maybe, or like, I'm sending dinner tonight, or like even the days leading up to it, because those ones are just as hard. Those are like really easy ways that you can support someone.
I think it's beautiful because I think in a world where it's like we're almost afraid to make people feel
I know.
feelings, even though we all know we have them and that is what's happening. I think it's really helpful to understand. And you're right. Gosh, there's nothing simpler than asking a question and checking in with someone and just saying like, how can I best support you? Or sending, I'm thinking of you.
Well, like imagine you like lost a parent,
Yeah.
right? And like no one talked to you about it. Like it would be kind of strange, right? And like moms, we're not supposed to lose our babies. Like that is really something that goes against our physiology. Like it goes against like just evolution. Like we're mama bears, right? And like that connection is deeper than anything. So like you just voicing to a mom and acknowledging just like her experience and her loss, and she'll never forget it. She'll never forget it. And like, yeah, it's something that's so easy to do. You're not going to remind her of her baby. So
I'll say where you inspired me and helped me do this a little bit better. I lost my stepmom 2 years ago, and I have half brothers who lost their mom at a very, very young age. And I now include their mom in conversations. I think before, given that, I think my family was very uncomfortable talking about uncomfortable topics,
Sure.
I'd be like, do I bring up her name? Do I say that she'd be so proud of you? But I think because of the way you show up and there's such a presence in everything that you do that I was like, I want them to have their mom remain a presence, however that looks like to them. And I just think that's how we help and create awareness. I think that's where you've really helped me be more okay with talking about uncomfortable things and
like,
not worrying about making someone sad.
sure, like a moment of uncomfortableness for you might mean like a forever relationship changed for them.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Because I like will never forget the people that said the hard things to me, that were okay with being uncomfortable with me for the betterment of like me and my grief and for the honor of my babies. Like people just don't forget that.
Yeah.
They also don't forget the people that, do the opposite, the ones that don't show up or the ones that say nothing, because anything is better than nothing. I will say that. If you think that you're, being supportive of your loved one and their loss by just being totally MIA, I will tell you right now, no. Like anything is better than nothing, right? So
you take your story, you take everything that you guys have gone through, and you use it, and it inspires or motivates you to not want anyone else to go through the same level of loneliness. So can you tell us about the Haven and how you're now supporting women and families who've been through loss?
Yeah. So like I said, the moment I lost Vienna, I was in my DMs supporting women, like literally overnight. I remember, and like they supported me. I remember I was like in a loss group and I just said, hey, my baby just died. Like, what do I need to know? Because I was like, oh my God, like this is totally out of my wheelhouse. Like I know nothing. Like obviously I don't. And this like just, community of women came around me and held me and helped me. And I was like, I just felt like, oh my God, I'm forever grateful for those women because like they got it. And since then, I have been in my DMs, like I said, supporting women. And like, I can only do so much in my DMs, right? Like, and I was doing it all day, every day, women coming to my Instagram because someone sent them my account and they're telling me I finally feel seen. And, like you say things in a way that like no one has ever put into perspective for me, like, and asking me for help. And I was like racking my brain about how can I help women like in a bigger way. And then when I went through my pregnancy with Senna, my Earth daughter, I was like, wow, like this really would combine both my worlds, like my doula world, and this lost world. There's like this, void in care. And like these women are, again, waking up in that same flight or fight response that I went through. And like, there is a different way. Like you don't sure, there's some element that pregnancy is going to be a very hard pregnancy. It is. But you don't have to be alone like I did. Like, there can be people that have gone through it, so me, and like other women that are going through it, that can lift you up in that same experience, in that community. Because like, I know you are a huge advocate for this, and like, you were in the back of my mind when I was like, man, this needs community. Community needs to be a huge part of this. So I created a program called The Haven, and it's a pregnancy after loss support program, if you will, if you want to be like technical. And it's essentially that. It's women who are pregnant in different, gestations in their pregnancy that are going through this like profound experience trying to make it to their Senna, to their earth baby. And they have like the opportunity to have, the community aspect of women that can see them. They don't have to go somewhere that feels scary. They can go somewhere that they are seen, they feel safe, they feel, supported. They can get the birth education because these women are giving birth. They deserve to know, just like every birthing woman does, their options. And they can even dream of having a beautiful birth, a redemptive birth that is possible. Or they can, book themselves a C-section. If whatever one feels the safest to them, they have the right to have that choice and those options presented to them. And then there's also, the doula support. So when big, humongous feelings or information comes in that feels terrifying and overwhelming and like so unknown, they have a place to go to get, educated, evidence-based support, and from someone that has already traveled that path before. So it really does combine a lot of elements that, is kind of covering your bases, right? Mm-hmm. So I have that program, and we run it for 12 weeks at a time. And this is one thing that I was like, oh man, like it's so hard to know where to hit them on their pregnancy and how long to do it. But I do want it to still be an accessible thing that women can join. So really, I have different gestations for every woman. And I usually, they ask me like, oh, when should I join? And I'm like, well, do you need support? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, now's the time to join then. Because like, there is the option of extending care if you wanted it or needed it. But if you're needing support in your pregnancy after loss, like there's a place to go now where you don't have to just like sit there and ruminate in this like scary place, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's incredibly important work, and I know the value of community, and it's not obviously an ideal situation, but for you to be able to take that and create the solution that so many women desperately need, I think is, taking that story and turning it into a powerful mission that's going to serve hundreds of thousands of families. Yeah, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. So with you being a part of the Wild Collective, and, I loved having you a part of it.
I loved being a part of it.
I would love to know, one of your biggest aha moments of being a part of that community.
Well, I think for me, and I know we chatted about this really briefly before we started, but like when I got the news of that Vienna passed, I was part of the Wild Collective. And like the first place I went was to those women, because I knew I needed community. I knew that they were going to lift me up and see me. And that was the first place I went. And like, I mean, that's life-changing, right? I've met some of my longest friends at Wild Collective. I've been their doula. I'm like part of their family now. Like there have been so many beautiful opportunities of friendship and learning and connection. I mean, one of the biggest things, I was thinking about it this morning when I was like, where am I at in my cycle? But one of my biggest things that I took away was like learning about my cycle and my energy. And like, even when I schedule things with the Haven, I'm like, where am I going to be that day? Like, am I going to be able to show up? And that was huge for me. That was huge for me in business. That was huge for me how I show up in my relationship with my husband. It wasn't even just fertility. It was like, okay, what kind of Kristin am I going to be today? oh, okay. And I could plan accordingly for that. That was a huge thing. I mean, I did 3 rounds of the Wild Collective. Obviously, it was like a huge, very impactful in my life. I was this new woman in a new town. I didn't have any connections here. And it really like solidified me in this new area. It like gave me roots, right? So
what I always hoped when I started it is that women would then take that information forward and create something for themselves. And now that you have the Haven, what have you noticed about connecting these women in going through what you've been through in this very, very, sacred and important way?
Well, I think like in general, community is huge for any pregnancy.
Yeah. Okay.
It's huge. It's a transformative time in your life. You are experiencing things for the first time. Like it is a time where there are so many unknowns and you're becoming a new person. Like at the end of pregnancy, you're becoming a new person. And being able to share that with other women who are also becoming a new person is like one of the most like divine, sacred, and like beautiful things. Like there's things like we love our partners, they're great. But they're like, they're not going to understand what it's like to grow a baby and carry a baby, especially after loss, and like to, wake up with morning sickness or like whatever it might be. And like being able to have that community, even just to like see you or, vent with you, kind of going through the same thing is like super profound. And when it comes to like pregnancy after loss, one of the best things, and it's happening right now in the Haven, and I'm like, whew, like this is like something I wasn't prepared for. Women are having their babies. Like they're having their baby after loss. And like there are women in the group that are like losing their shit in celebration for this woman. And they get it. Like it's just so incredibly powerful. And like there really are no words. Like it like I said, pregnancy and your birth, it can affect your entire life. And imagine not having that when you have the best experience of your life and compared to having it. Like it is just profound, the difference, right? Yeah.
I love that. I love that. What does rewilding mean to you?
Ooh. Rewilding. I think it just means coming home, right? Like coming back to your roots, kind of like that divine feminine energy. Yeah.
I love that.
To me.
I have some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. What books are currently on your nightstand?
Ooh. Books? Like I have a 1-year-old.
There are no baby books.
Like literally, if I opened a book, I'd be like, meh, and I'd probably fall asleep. But I do have Natural Remedies for Children by Aviva Romm on my nightstand.
I love Aviva.
Yeah,
That's
she's the best.
Yeah. Someone who inspires you.
I have so many women in my life. I'm very lucky to have a lot of women that inspire me. I mean, you inspire me for sure. I mean, like I said, the community aspect, I was like, yeah, Michelle, yeah. Like every time you talk about it, I'm like, she's so right. And that was a huge part of, creating the Haven. Other people that inspire me, I mean, my daughter, Vienna. She kind of brings it all home for me. And like she has a very powerful energy. Like some part of me feels like I didn't have a choice in what I was going to do because she was like, no. Like she has been leading me and she shows up. So like she definitely inspires me all the time.
I love that. What fills your cup?
My daughter, Senna. She is like the light of my life. But like more like regular things is like I love running. That is a huge one for me. My girlfriends for sure. And like I love a good meal and a good TV show. Yeah, that's a good one.
Love it. Advice you wish someone gave you 5 years ago?
I think at the end of the day, and I think I knew this then, but I might have just needed a reminder that like the only thing that matters is your family. And like,
So true.
to hell with everyone else. Like, as long as that is taken care of, like, you could honestly change the world. Just, what's that quote where it's like, if you want to change the world, start within the four walls of your own home or whatever. And it's so true. Like, it's really, that's the energy for number one, where the energy goes.
I love that. And one word to describe yourself.
That's a good one. I would say, like, silly. I will also say resilient. I know I'm a very resilient woman.
Like, if you don't say that,
Yeah.
I'll say it for you.
Okay.
Kristin, thank you for being here. I know it's not easy to tell a story like yours. You came on your birthday. I just really wanted a special space to highlight how special you are, how special your story is, and how special the work you do is. And it means a lot to me that you're here and that we are having this conversation, and that you're helping us who've maybe not been or walked a similar path be better, be braver, to show up and show support for those in our world who matter, who've been through really difficult things, and shining a light on grief and how to navigate those waters. And I'm so proud of you for creating what you've created. So how can people connect with you? How can they find you?
So I'm definitely most active on Instagram. So you can find me at the.doula.life. I'm on there probably too much. I also have a website, so www.thedoulallife.ca. Those are probably the two best ways to find me.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And
it
happy
feels really
birthday.
special. Thank you.